as we're talking here, let's talk about employment. Let's talk about recruiting into the industry. It is a hot topic right now, and not for great reasons. I think that a lot of us were hoping that post COVID, with this golf boom, that we were going to see, with facilities needing staff to meet this new demand, that we were going to see people there jumping in the golf business, or people to fill these roles that we needed. And as I was saying, it doesn't matter who I talk to, in what part of the country, and at what type of facility they're struggling. So, what have you seen on your end, on the recruiting side, and what do you think is behind some of these issues we've been having?
Those are some great questions, and you hit it on the nose. Dean, I think it comes down to just maybe uh, what golf can provide for a lifestyle, meaning time off from work, time away from family and friends on holidays.
Hmm.
Let's be honest, pay is a big part of it. So I think people value their time off more than ever now, spending
Yeah,
time with family and friends. And as we know, if you're just coming up in the golf business, you're going to sacrifice a lot of those. So it's something we need to look at as an industry. Certainly been talking to a lot of golf pros in the local area and nationally, and we may need to get creative in how we staff our programs from now on, whether that's 5 days a week, even in season, or less overtime and working, giving more time off. So we're looking at all those. I can tell you that my program is still 6 days a week in season.
hmm,
Usually 7 hour days for the assistants, so 42 hours a week. That's in a non outing week, a non big week, as you know,
right.
those get longer. So I'm fortunate right now to still have to find great people to work for me, and I hope that continues, but may have to get creative in the future.
Yeah. So, and do you think that some of this is having to retrain our clubs,
Mm.
as far as this is there's a new generation, and there we need to meet these new demands. Um, do you think that's part of it too? And do you see yourself maybe having to try to do that at some point?
Yeah, absolutely. I've talked to a lot of people. They're having trouble getting interns and things like that. And
Yeah.
interns for us are it's a 6 month job interview for any incoming assistant professional. The way I look at it, this
Hmm.
is the first year we're going to bring a couple sports management interns in, not necessarily golf driven,
Yeah.
to work our operation. And so that's a first for us. So we are making some adjustments there, and I agree with you 100%. You better start having those discussions now with your golf chairs and your general managers or whoever you report to, because I think the times are changing.
And you're in New York, so how has the $15 an hour minimum wage impacted your staffing ability? Because I know some
Yeah,
people are staring at that, and that's a scary thing for some of us.
that's a great question. When I got hired in 2014, our minimum wage was 775,
Hmm.
and that's what we pretty much paid all our outside service help.
Yeah.
Obviously they get some benefits to be able to play the golf course and those types of things. But New York, luckily we're not in New York City right now, so
Yeah.
we have a path to get to $15 an hour.
Okay.
Right now in upstate New York or Western New York, where we are, we're 12.50 an hour. But I believe in the next couple of years we need to get to the $15 number. And so, it's been an educational process through the budget, just making sure that our members know that they're going to have to pay more, whether it be in dues or some clubs such as ours have certain fees associated to storing your golf bag, and those fees are transferred off to offset some of the costs of labor. So we
Hmm.
have increased those costs quite a bit in the last couple of years, knowing that we will need to get to that $15 range. I mean, that's pretty much doubled, in 7 or 8 years. That's a big difference than just a few years ago.
No doubt, no doubt. Well, there's no easy answer. I completely agree with you that this is a transition that the industry is going to have to make, and I think leaders in the business need to start pushing for that. Start pushing your clubs for, hey, you're going to see golf pros 5 days a week, assistant professionals. You're going to see them. You're not going to see them 80 hours a week. And by the way, we're going to have to pay them a comparable wage. And for some clubs, this is going to be a tough challenge, but the scary thing is if we don't do it, right, where are we going to be?
Absolutely. I was just talking to another pro in town here in Rochester, and he did a little research. And there's a kind of a big box retailer, golf retailer, sporting goods retailer that just opened up in town, and they're paying. I think the starting wage is $19 an hour to work in the golf section of that store,
Right.
and he's paying his assistants obviously less than that to work, and so that's a tough pill to swallow when you know how important assistant golf professionals are to the success of all our operations.
Hmm. Well, let's talk a little bit about your background. Speaking of assistant golf professionals, you've had an interesting road to Oak Hill, and something that I think a lot of our listeners would love to hear about. Rochester, or the Rochester area, is a long way from Santa Rosa, California. So, tell us a little bit about how you made your way there, and about your stops along the way.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, it certainly is pretty far from my home, and I can tell you that I'm the only relative that's moved out of California. So my closest relative is 2,000 miles away. I don't get to see him very often,
Yeah.
especially with COVID. I haven't been out to California in over a year. So, um, but it's been a great journey. I played golf in high school and played golf in college at San Diego State, and tried to play professionally outside when I left. And as you know, that's a tough road. And I
Hmm.
was lucky to have some early sponsorships, but as soon as that money ran out, I knew had to do something else. And I wanted to stay in golf that's all I ever knew how to do really. And so became started working in Arizona at a couple of great spots, became the first assistant professional at the Rim Golf Club in Payson, Arizona. Really great Weiskopf Morris design. Actually, the last golf course they designed as a team together.
Hmm.
And I was there for 4 years. Let's see, that would have been 2001 to 2000 or 2000 to 2004. But I knew I kind of wanted, my goal was to be at, a top 100 facility in the country. And in order to do that, I knew I probably had to either work my way to the East Coast or to the South. Um, so I started looking for positions that offered that, and I was fortunate to get a position at East Lake Golf Club in Atlanta, Georgia, home of Bobby Jones, and was able to work for a great golf professional, Chad Parker, there, and Rick Burton, who was since retired, but he was there as well, and that opened a lot of doors. I met a lot of fantastic people,
Hmm.
and it certainly did help me when the opportunity came to apply at the Augusta National Golf Club. And so when I got that position in 2004, I got the chance to go to work with Tony and JJ and be a part of that operation. I don't know if you saw that special on TV the other night. That was pretty neat. One day in November on ESPN. Did you see that?
I didn't see that. No.
Yeah, so that they kind of pulled the curtains back a little bit on the how the Masters worked in November. It was a half-hour special. They're going to air it a couple more times, but I encourage
Hmm.
anyone to watch that. And Tony and JJ were on that show quite a bit, which is neat to see them. But working there certainly it's an eye-opening experience. You learn about taking care of people and exceeding expectations and paying attention to details. And so that time there was so valuable in my career. I was, let's see, I was early 30s, so I thought I was ready to be a head golf professional, and I'll tell you what, I certainly
Right.
wasn't. And so that opportunity really opened my eyes. The neat thing about working there is they're closed during the summer times, so I was able to go see some other facilities. Um, and what I wanted to do was get about the most opposite experience that I could find at a club. And what that means is I wanted to go to one of the busiest clubs. I wanted to go to a club that had, at the time, female members, and also juniors, and all those
Hmm.
programs. And so I applied and got the position for the summer at Congressional Country Club as one of their assistant professionals, working under John Lieberger. And so having those two clubs and being so different really is something I think a lot of people should try to do if they're seasonal, if they could jump back and forth
Yeah.
from seasonal jobs, is really look at the clubs and see what one club's offering and what the other club can offer you in return. And so I did that for, let's see, 4 or 5 summers at Congressional. And my last summer at Augusta, I went to work for Derek Brody at Inverness Club in Ohio, in Toledo. And the neat thing about working for Derek that one season, him and I worked together at Augusta But I got to see a first year head golf professional in his role and see the
Yeah.
challenges that really go along with being a first year head pro, and how much you can really take. And um, everyone goes into a job thinking they can do so much in year one, and it's really, you got to be careful on how much you do. And Derek did a great job there, and so I really got to witness that. And so then I applied for the position at Oak Hill in 2014. Probably a long shot at the time. I had never really spent much time in New York at all, and never been to Oak Hill before. Didn't really know Craig Harmon, who was my predecessor. So
Right.
um, kind of a shot in the dark, but went through the process and was very fortunate to get the position. And I've been there, it's hard to believe, 7 years now. So it's been a great ride.
So there's a lot of that I want to dive back into, but let's rewind back to getting to East Lake, and
Mm.
maybe you get to East Lake, and then through being successful there, the doors open, you have an opportunity at Augusta National. Can you pinpoint something, then you look back and say that you were doing something that you felt like you were good at that helped you open those doors? Because I know a lot of assistants are probably listening, saying, "Well, it'd be great. Yeah, we all want to work at Augusta National. We all would love to be at East Lake." But you have to do a great job while you're there. This just doesn't happen automatically. What do you look back and kind of say, "Hey, was maybe I did this pretty well?" And I know you're not going to want to toot your own horn, but for the benefit of the assistants listening.
Yeah, that's a good question, Dean. I would certainly say that eh, there's no shortcuts. I mean, I put in the work, I put in the hours. And it's all about networking when it comes down to it. It's not about where you went to college or what grade you got in your senior year. It's about the people that are willing to make those phone calls for you when the time is right to make those phone calls. Now, it
Hmm.
didn't hurt that I had met the chairman at the time, working at East Lake, or I knew a few members. Um,
Sure.
but I'll tell you, it's there certainly are no shortcuts. And I was willing to put in the work and the time, and quite frankly, the effort to do so. The other thing I would mention, I think this goes overlooked a lot, is, and again, I'm not tooting my own horn, but I can play some golf, and so
Hmm.
that's important at Augusta National, and at most clubs, but especially there, that you're going to play with the members and they expect you to play well.
Yeah.
So uh, you know keep your game sharp, and play with the members, and compete in section events if you can, but keep working on your game and always trying to get better.
Hmm. So you get this opportunity at Augusta National. Take us through in like the early days there. I would think just walking on property, maybe saying, "All right, well, this is great. What do I do now? How am I gonna," with the awe and the stature of Augusta National. So, what were you thinking back then as an assistant walking in for your first couple months, really?
Well, it's funny. I'll even take you before the first day going in there. I got the call that I got the job. I was, at the time, I think I was in Sedona, Arizona, on a vacation. I got the call from Tony and JJ, and I was so excited. And we got off the phone. I put the phone down, and I realized I didn't even know if I got paid to work there, but I was willing to take the job no matter what it took.
Sure.
I did find out I did get a paycheck every week, but no, you're right. When you walk into that place, you're kind of in awe. Luckily, from being at East Lake, I had seen the course a couple times
Hmm.
just from being at the Masters. But I'll tell you, the first time you step foot on those grounds, it takes you to a new place. But I will say that, even though they're so good at what they do, day in and day out, they're always trying to get better. That's the one thing that drove me there, is that when I got on property, they're saying, okay, we want a fresh pair of eyes. Take a notepad, walk around, and see all the things that maybe we don't see because we've seen it for years and years and years. And so, what was so great is that they wanted to get better. The best in the business
Hmm.
wanted to get better, and that's what kind of drives me at Oak Hill. So yeah, every single piece of advice that I maybe gave them, they didn't do, but I'll tell you that they did do some of the things that we suggested, and it's neat to see the fruits of your labor come out through that process.
Hmm. So you mentioned, and I've heard this from a number of guys. I could say the same thing. At some point in your career, you feel you're ready for that next move. You feel you're ready for this head pro job that you're working towards, and then you get another job that proves to you that you weren't quite ready. So what can you look back on and say, well, it's a good thing I made it to Augusta and I was able to learn X that put me in a better position for what I where I am now.
Yeah, and not to go to give anything back to any of the other professionals I worked with because they
Yep.
were all fantastic and I learned so much from each one of them. But Tony and JJ are so good with people, right? And I learned I needed to come out of my shell a little bit. And I was a little bit of introvert probably when I arrived, and hopefully I became more of an extrovert when I left there. And so, I tell people it's a blessing and a curse when you work at Augusta National because after you leave, you analyze every little thing you see, every little place you go, whether that be if you're at another club or a hotel or just the customer service at the bank or wherever it is, you're always trying to say, well, if they did this, it could be better. And it's those types of things that really made lasting impressions on me. But Tony and JJ are some of the best you'll ever see with dealing with people in the business and also with members and guests.
So obviously, consistent improvement's a big theme of yours, and I'm sure it's something that you're trying to reinforce with your staff on a regular basis. Now, much like a lot of great clubs, when people show up at Oak Hill, they're expecting they have certain expectations. It may be the best place they've ever played, it may be the best place they'll ever play, right? It's a big deal for a lot of people, especially if you have members hosting guests. How do you get this across to your staff on a regular basis and make sure that they're meeting the expectations that your members and their guests have?
Yeah, good question. And you're right. We don't want to take it for granted how important it is to when you come to the property. And for most people, this could be a bucket list type of place for them
Hmm.
to play or step foot on. And so we start early with before we even hire them through the interview process, making sure that we set those values early. When you do get the position at Oak Hill, there's a quality service packet that I've created a few years ago that kind of outlines my expectations and all the things I've learned from all the clubs I worked at, but also from studying some of the best companies in the world at customer service, whether that be Nordstrom or Disney's probably one of my favorite. They do such a good
Hmm.
job. Um, so we're always trying to learn and get better. But to answer your process, Dean, it's an ongoing thing. And even in our busy summer, I mean, we do 40 plus thousand rounds in 6 months. Our staff can sometimes lean away from what we're trying to do at times, and we have to maybe bring them all in halfway through the season when everyone's kind of being burnt out from long hours and things, and just remind them how special it is for people to come here. The other thing that we do, which I think is pretty neat, is we give back. Our staff gives back to the local community. It's kind of part of what we like to do, and so seeing some of the faces of the people that come on property, whether that be someone from Make a Wish or that's maybe got a physical disability or a mental disability, and see the look on their face when they arrive, and so it's not always about the haves; it's sometimes about the have-nots, and I'm very fortunate to have a staff that understands that.
So you've gone deeper too. You've created a development program for your assistants, Oak Hill University. I think that's interesting to a lot of people listening here, whether you're managing people or you will someday. Tell us a little bit about how you started that and what that entails.
Yeah, and that was really a byproduct of what I never worked for Cameron Weeb down at the Everglades Club, but I heard about this program and he did a fantastic job with it. And I knew some people that worked for him and I was able to get some of the material. And we just kind of built on what he started. And
Mm-hmm.
so I would make sure, I want to make sure that I give credit to, who was probably the pioneer in that aspect. But I
Right.
feel we've taken it to a whole new level. And I think that's why I have so much returning staff that comes back year in and year out, because again, we're not paying them any differently than most clubs are in the country, but it's that extra things that we do for them, whether it's, resume build or, seminars in different topics. And a lot of those topics aren't always about golf.
Yeah.
One of them, one of my favorites is a personal finance seminar that we call a financial advisor in, and they talk about paying off student loans and debts and how to live on a budget. Because let's be honest, as an assistant professional, those things are important. And
Hmm.
so, hopefully for us, it's about can they understand how much we care about them and want them to succeed? One thing that we just put up this year is a Hall of Fame from past assistant professionals. So when an assistant professional of mine gets a head professional job, they send me a business card, and we put this up on the wall. And so it's kind of a neat thing that all assistant professionals that come and work at Oak Hill try to get on the wall of fame. So
Hmm.
it's those fun things you have to do for your staff to keep them excited sometimes.
Do you outsource all that training? Do you have members that help out with that? How's that work?
Yeah, both. A lot of
Yeah.
it's done internally. For example, I do the interviewing and career development seminars, whether it be
Hmm.
resume building or portfolio. But
Yeah.
financial advisors will come in, and a lot of times our members are happy to do that. I mean, let's be honest, most of our members at private clubs are some of the pioneers in their industry. So you should lean on them because they're happy to do that for your staff. Trust me, they will do that if you ask. And so we just try to find the best at whatever topic it is. We try to find the best person. Usually it's local, but
Hmm.
sometimes it's national. I think with Zoom nowadays, we could branch out more and do these types of things.
Sure.
Um, but I like to do it personally if we can. One of my favorites, we do a merchandising seminar, and we go to the best retail store in town, non Oak Hill, obviously. It's a men's store, and they're fantastic at what they do, and they're member owned. And so we'll go in and they'll explain, how they do their displays and how come their shop looks so good and quality fabrics and things like that. And so it's not always golf that our assistants like. It's can you branch out a little bit and give them other things other than just golf all the time.
Hmm. You mentioned following Craig Harmon as the when you got the job there at Oak Hill. He was there 42 years. Obviously, any Harmon name is in this business is legendary. So, what kind of pressure did you feel following that? How'd you handle that? I mean, did you feel pressure?
Yeah, that's a great question. I will say that during year one, people would come in, boy, you got big shoes to fill. Following Craig
Hmm.
Harmon, got big shoes, big shoes. My follow up was always, look, I wear size 8.5, and that's the truth. I wear size 8.5. And I said, I couldn't fill anyone's shoes even if I tried. So I I set the expectation early though, Dean, and it was more about just trying to be myself and set my own legacy.
Hmm.
There's certain people you can never be, right, and in a lot of those Harmons you can never be a Harmon. They're so good with their stories and people and their father's stories, and so I just try to create my own legacy, and I think we're doing a pretty good job of that. Just focusing mostly on member experience, trying to improve that, but also staff education and trying to make sure that we have the best staff that they can. So I wouldn't be lying if I didn't say that I felt some pressure, but
Hmm.
the members were so welcoming to me and my ideas that that quickly faded away in years 2 and 3 and beyond.
So, were you reluctant to jump in and make changes? I mean, I'm sure you get this job, you're ready, you're gung ho, ready to go. Was it kind of you wanted to tread lightly for a while?
Yeah, I think that's a good piece of advice. What you just hit on is, most first year head professionals will walk into a facility and want to change so much so fast. And,
Hmm.
some memberships aren't ready for that. It takes time. So I would recommend, in your first year as a head golf professional, find the things that you can change that won't ruffle too many feathers. Make members understand that your philosophies will work before you just change a lot. So, yeah, there's a balance there. It's you got to stay on the teeter totter, so to speak, and just kind of be in the middle a little bit in the beginning, and then as you get more experience and as the members understand that you are doing the right things, they'll let you do more and change more as the time goes on. But tread lightly early on.
Hmm. So you mentioned balance, work-life balance is something we talk about a lot in this industry, probably because it's a challenge. But you're running a big busy facility. We mentioned the high expectations, a lot of staff. You put a lot of effort into your staff. How are you managing to keep this organized after 7 years? Have you had some systems you've built, or what's working for you as far as keeping you being able to stay on top of everything you need to do?
Yeah, outlook. I
Yeah.
mean, it's
Right.
I don't know what I would do without Outlook. I'd
Yeah.
use the flag system and all that stuff, and
Yeah.
appreciate you sending me the meeting invite.
Yeah.
But I'll tell you what, we have so many different things, and I know you know this. We have so many different things on a daily basis we have to do, probably now more than ever. And
Mhm.
so, if you don't have a good system in place to keep you on task, whether that be the old pen and paper method of writing things down, my staff still carries tablets in their back pocket as opposed to their phones. And whenever I ask them to do something, I have them open up the book, write it down, and then close the book again. And then,
Mhm.
by the end of the day, I expect those things to be done in their book, and that works for them. That works for us. But I'll tell you, yeah, if we didn't use technology, like computers and things like that, and phones, I don't know what we would do. It gives me anxiety to know what the golf professionals did before all this stuff came around. I don't know if it was easier or if it was harder, quite frankly, because
Yeah, I know.
you can never tune out anymore, right? You're never away
Exactly.
with your phone. Let me ask you a question. I mean, what do you
Mhm.
when you're home with your family? I mean, are you answering emails on your phone and doing that type of stuff? What do you do?
So I really try not to. And I've gotten pretty committed to trying to run the right systems, especially with my email, so that I don't have to. I'm trying to by the end of the day, I'm trying to close as many loops as I can, so that I'm not going home with those things hanging on my mind. Now, it's gotten a little bit easier as my kids have gotten older. When I got this job, I had a 6 month old, and then pretty quickly after that, then I had a 2.5 year old and a baby, and so now as the kids are a little more self-sufficient, I don't feel as much pressure that I can't pull out my phone. And when you got the little kids, it's like you step away for a second and it feels like an hour, right? um, but I think because I got this job at that time, I had to develop these systems. So it's about wrapping everything up that you can. Timing. Don't send a mass email to your members at 5 o'clock on a Wednesday if you're about to, or 5:30 if you're about to walk out the door, if you don't want people answering you back. And I schedule time to answer my emails as much as possible, especially the busier we get.
Yeah,
Uh,
that's great advice for any young
yeah.
professional listening in. One thing I also think that's important is delegate to your staff.
Hmm.
We get all those emails from members. Hey, can you make me a tea time on this day or whatever? And don't
Yeah.
be afraid as a golf professional to hand that off to your assistants. They can do a lot of that and lessen that burden, so to speak.
Well, have you had to learn that lesson kind of the hard way as well? Because I think a lot of people that had successful careers as assistants, you are successful because you do put in the time, you do put in the effort, you try to be Superman and do everything because you're preparing yourself, and then you get a job, and it's hard to transition out of that.
Yeah,
Y-
I'd say in year one, um, I probably didn't do a good job of delegating. I felt like I could do it all.
Yeah.
In my first year at Oak Hill, and I quickly realized that I couldn't do it. When you're getting 100 to 200 emails sometimes a day, you better delegate a lot, and luckily my staff can handle that. But there is a balance. I mean, sometimes the members do want to hear directly from you as the head golf professional or director of golf, and not so much from the assistant. So you kind of know those members, and you know who those ones are that you can not
Right.
pawn off, but you understand what I'm saying. And so
Right.
there's a balance there, and you just kind of have to learn it. But yeah, don't try to do it all yourself. You won't be successful.
So you mentioned some of the great golf professionals you've worked for coming up. You mentioned at Augusta, just how much you learned about the skills of dealing with people. What else do you pull from some of these great people that you've used these days?
Yeah, good question. And if I go back to maybe John Lieberger for a second at Congressional, while I was there during the summer, he won National Merchandiser of the Year, and so I learned a lot about retail at Congressional. Busy club,
Mhm.
and I was fortunate to win that award last year. So it's kind of handing the traits down that you learn. And at East Lake, Chad and the team there, had to really run a lot of events. That was the first time I was involved in some big events. So the Tour Championship every single year, and it was more of a corporate club, and understanding that philosophy and how they manage both corporate members, but also your individual members. And then, as I mentioned, Derek being a first year head golf professional, the challenges that went along with that. Pete Baker at the rim, just a great guy. Really cared about my development growing up and how I was doing. So, you take a little bit from everybody, and you kind of just you become a better golf professional because of it. And I wouldn't be myself or where I am right now if it wasn't for each and every one of those. And that goes back to the people that taught me how to play golf, the golf
Yeah.
pros that I looked up to as a junior golfer. Boy, when I saw the golf pro walking on the range as a junior golfer, I was in awe. And
Right.
it's funny to think that we may have that that impact on some of our junior golfers now, and how much they may look up to us. It's pretty neat to kind of think about that.
Something important to remind ourselves of, certainly from time to time too, right?
Yeah, and how we
It-
act, right? Yeah,
yeah.
absolutely.
So you mentioned at East Lake, learn about running, big championships. Obviously, that's something happening at Oak Hill. How does that change a year for you or a couple years leading up to that? And how have you managed? We're talking about staying organized. And now you throw in a big championship. How have you been able, how are you able to navigate all that?
Yeah, so my first championship that I was able to kind of manage on my own and not be an assistant professional under was 2019's KitchenAid Senior PGA Championship at Oak Hill that we hosted.
Hmm.
And it was fun to be a part of that. And the neat thing about that event, but also the 23 PGA Championship that we're hosting in a couple years, that's the PGA of America. So you're talking about our organization. And
Yeah.
one thing that I told them when they arrived is, look, I want my golf professionals to be involved in the running of these events. So we did a little bit more maybe than what other professionals have. I've
Hmm.
heard of some places where basically the pro or the assistants take the whole week off. And
Yeah.
I didn't want, yeah, and I didn't want that for my staff. I wanted them to be right in the thick of things. So, we managed the practice tee operation, all the carts. We were involved in some first tee stuff, and it was great. It does add more to your plate, but when you come to these great places and you want to be the head golf professional at places like Oak Hill or Oakmont or wherever you're at, that just goes along with the job. And
Hmm.
that's kind of our DNA at Oak Hill. We want to host major championships, whether it's with the PGA of America, the USGA. That's what we do, and we look forward to that challenge every single year. And it does grow. I mean, it seems like these events get bigger and bigger every year.
Yeah.
It's I don't know what the Ryder Cup's going to look like in 10 years from now. I can only imagine what that would look like. But it's exciting because people really care, and it gets people excited to watch it on TV and to come out to the golf course to watch these great players play. So yeah, I think for me it's just about making sure my staff stays engaged that week and doesn't feel like
Hmm.
it's a vacation week for them.
Yeah. Let's talk a little bit about COVID. I'd be remiss if we didn't talk about that. Obviously, we know what happened in 2020, but as we move into the 2021 season at Oak Hill, how are you managing? I can imagine you had the big jumping rounds that everybody had, right? And so we've got a lot of interest from new golfers. Are you doing anything special to try to retain these new players or keep that momentum going that we had from 2020?
Yeah, it's actually an exciting time at Oak Hill. I mean, in the last 20 years, we really haven't had a wait list per se per members, and so we just implemented one just last week. So, part of that's COVID related, but
Hmm.
hopefully some of it's what we're doing here at the club too. So, yeah, a big influx of incoming members and no one really leaving the club. I mean, that's a good thing.
Hmm.
I would say last year was obviously difficult, and I know we've all heard that, with the single rider carts and the excess rounds and the unknowing, the sanitization stuff.
Yeah.
Um, and we're going to be doing a lot of that again this year. I think it will get better as the year goes on. But yeah, it's for us as far as incoming golfers. Our junior program is very robust because we have a lot of new juniors coming in. We have this. We're going to do this new thing where all incoming members are going to hopefully play golf with our golf professional staff, so that they can kind of
Wow.
educate them on the expectations of being a new member at a club, and how to take
Hmm.
care of the golf course and how things kind of work. So yeah, we want to make sure that after this is all over, after COVID is maybe a thing in the past, or at least in our rearview mirror, that we don't lose any golfers. That they
Yeah.
don't start leaving the club. So we want to keep them engaged, and that's not just the golf department's vision. I mean, for us, the food and beverage and every or every person, every staff member at the club's goal is to just engage the members as much as we can so that they don't leave.
Yeah, I think that's the challenge is we've been given this huge jump that we were hoping for in golf. We didn't know how we were going to get it. Obviously, as PGA professionals, there have been so many different initiatives and maybe have incremental improvements, but then we go back down and just couldn't have this steady rise. But I think I fear that clubs now, hey, we have a waiting list, so we don't need to do anything, right? We're all good, and that hey, the market could tank tomorrow on that waiting list. Plus, 20% of your members walk out the door. So I think it's important that we stay kind of driving forward, innovating, and to your point, trying to engage new members to make sure that hey, it's worth staying, and this is a place you want to be at.
Yeah, it's certainly people know that golf is a safe sport now, and you can do
Mhm.
it safely, and it can be a family sport. It was great seeing so many parents playing with kids that you've never seen before, really, and
Yeah.
the kids not being as much in school, and so let's not lose some of that. I mean, obviously, we want to get our kids back in school, but hopefully on the weekends we'll be seeing some of those parents again with our kids. And but you hit it on the nose, Dean. I mean, we can't let our foot off the pedal at this point. We need to make sure that we stay engaged as golf professionals and create fun and exciting times for our members and guests.
So I'll get you out of here. One last question, something I like to ask everybody. Say you're talking to an incoming assistant professional or somebody you're helping and mentoring. You mentioned playing golf, and obviously that's a big skill that we all need in this business. So we can't lose sight of that. What other skills do you think are the most critical for really sustaining long term success in this business? Or if you had to think of, hey, what if what's helping me succeed throughout the years in this business? Or if I wasn't good at XYZ, I wouldn't I probably wouldn't have made it this far. What do you think are those critical skills for us?
Yeah, one thing I ask all incoming staff when I interview them is what business they think we're in, and most of the time they'll say the golf business. And
Hmm.
while that may be correct, I kind of correct them and say, no, we're in the hospitality business. So if you don't like people, if you don't like engaging with people, if you don't like talking to people, then being a golf professional is not for you. That's the first trait that you have to have. So I really feel that if you have that, and you touched on this earlier already, you have to be able to you have to be organized. You
Hmm.
hear it all the time, and I'll say it again. We wear so many hats, right? You always hear that, but it is the
Yeah.
truth. And if you're not organized, if you're missing your appointments, if you're not following up on emails and phone calls and things, you're not going to be successful as a golf professional. So, yeah, make sure. And it was great early in my career. I won't mention who it was, but I had a golf professional for that invited me into his office for an hour and tried to talk me out of being a golf professional.
Right.
Yeah, right. Which is a little odd. He said, after the hour, if you still want to be a golf professional, then I will help you in your career. But he told me all the things I was going to miss. You're going to miss
Hmm.
birthdays and weekends and Fourth of July picnics and all that stuff. And it made me think really hard. But I bought in and I was all in. So you almost have to have that conversation. If you don't have it with someone, you kind of have to have it with yourself if you're willing to do that or not. And if the answer is yes, you're willing to sacrifice those things and put in the hours and work, and you like people, and you love golf, and you like playing golf and teaching golf, and this is a great business. It can take you a lot of great spots. I mean, you've been very successful in your career, but you got to have those things. And I don't know if you agree with me, but I think that first and foremost, you have to have a hospitality kind of mindset in order to be successful in this business.
Yeah, I think 100%. And if you don't, and there's certainly people that don't and have managed to sustain a career, but they're fighting an uphill battle, and they don't enjoy walking in the door every day. And not every day's a holiday, right, for us, but some days are tougher than others. But overall, if you don't enjoy walking in the door and seeing people, it's gonna be an uphill battle for you. So
Right.
I certainly agree with you. And I'm big on organization as well, just because of all those hats that we have to wear. Sometimes I think if I only had to do one or two things, this would be a cakewalk, right? You could really focus, right? Sit down at your desk, work for 6, 7, 8 hours, and then walk out. Well, that's not what we signed up for. But
No, I'll tell you what. I'll be the first to volunteer to go pick up the range balls in the machine out
sure.
there anytime. Put in some headphones and go out there and just tune out for half an hour. Kind of, it's not a bad thing. It kind of sets your tone for the rest of the day. But yeah, it's challenging, but I enjoy every single day I come to work.
Well, I want to thank you so much for your time and carving out a little bit of time to talk today. I really appreciate it. Congrats on the Merchandiser of the Year award. That's a huge honor for you and your team. I know you're really appreciative of all the efforts that your team put in to help with that award. So congrats on that, and congrats on all your success at Oak Hill. So
Well,
thanks
Dean,
again
I'll
for your
tell
time.
you, yeah, absolutely, and thank you for doing this. This is really fantastic. I think you do a fantastic job. As I was preparing for this, I was listening to a lot of the past podcasts you did, and you should be commended for your work and being able to set time out in your schedule to be able to do these. It goes a long way. So kudos to you.
Thanks. I really appreciate that. And best of luck for the season this year, and hope we can speak again.
All right, Dean, take care. Thanks.